On November 3rd, 1994, 18-year-old Brett Kreller and his friend Christian Alfonso went out for an evening of socializing and drinking on the New Orleans lakefront. They visited with a friend, Kimberly Barry, at Sluggo's. Around 11:30 p.m., Barry and Kreller went outside so Barry could make a phone call. While outside, Lutgardo, also known as Luke Silva, called her a slut and a bitch and asked her if she was still a fucking Lakeview chick. Lakeview was a local youth gang. Kreller and Silva exchanged words in confrontation before Kreller and Barry went back inside. Barry testified she visited with Kreller until around 1 a.m. She left the bar and walked to her car. As she was leaving, she saw Silva approach Kreller. Defense witnesses, Silva's friends, Jerry Watkins and Sean Paulin, testified Kreller started the fight, was acting crazy, and told them to follow him to continue the fight elsewhere following bar staff telling them to leave the premise. Kreller and Alfonso drove to a friend's house and Silva and 3 friends followed. Kreller and Silva began to fight in a neighbor's driveway. When Kreller had the advantage, Silva's friends joined in and began beating him and kicking him in the head. Kreller's friend came out of the house, saw a pile of people on him, and attempted to help by chasing people away with a baseball bat. Silva then pulled a gun and shot Kreller in his forehead. On January 18, 1996, a jury found Silva guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to a mandatory term of life imprisonment without the benefit of parole, probation, or a suspension of sentence. But in 2023, Governor Edwards commuted his sentence to 75 years with the possibility of parole. Now, in October of 2024, after almost 30 years, Silva is up for parole. Let's take a look. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Now to the hearing.
Mr. Silva, would you please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number for the record?
Legardo Silva, 364086.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a brief explanation of the process. I'm going to read some information into the record, ask you to verify it. Then we're going to give you a chance to speak and tell us what you did that caused your incarceration and why you think you should be released. Then the warden at the facility is going to be asked to speak, and we will allow public comments. 3 supporters will be allowed to speak on your behalf, and 3 will be allowed to speak in opposition. The district attorney will have a chance to speak. Your case has been assigned to me, so I will be the lead on your case and ask the first question, then cast the first vote. So today we have, for parole consideration, Legardo Silva, DOC number 364086, who's a first felony offender who was convicted of second-degree murder at a trial by jury, and on January 18th, 96, and on February 1st, 96, was sentenced to life, and then on 12/19/23, Governor Edwards commuted that sentence from life to 75 years with parole eligibility, giving you a parole eligibility date of 8/1/21, a good time date of May 12th, 33, and a full term date of November 12th, 70. Does that information sound correct to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you're up first. We're asking you to tell us what you did to cause yourself to be incarcerated, and why do you think the parole board should vote to release you today?
Yes, sir. First, I would just like to thank this board for bringing me before you. I appreciate that very much. Back in 1994, I had went to a football game. It was the school that I went to. It was their homecoming game. After the game, some friends and we went out to shoot pool. While I was out, I got into a verbal altercation with Brett Kreller. We changed locations, and we actually got into a physical altercation. In the midst of fighting, someone came at me with a baseball bat and hit me with the bat. And that's when I made the worst decision of my life. I grabbed a gun and shot it 1 time. And tragically, I killed Brett Kreller. For that action, I'm full of sorrow for the pain and suffering I've caused to the Kreller family and all of his friends. The amount of pain and suffering I have caused them all is unbearable. And for that, I'll always be apologetic for what I've done. the worst day of my life became the worst days of your lives. And I'll forever be sorry for that. None of you deserve what I did. And most importantly, Brett didn't deserve what I did. In regards to your second question, 30 years ago, my life was a mess. A series of bad choices led to worse choices and led to more bad choices. I was out of control. I was wild. I had no aim or purpose in life. And all of these things netted in doing something that was unconscionable and that was senseless. The burden of all of this lies upon my shoulders. And as I lived my life and I came to this prison, I gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And I realized that I couldn't just come and say that I wanted to be a better person, because words can sometimes be hollow. I wanted my life and my actions to be evidence of all the pain and remorse and sorrow that I feel for everything that I've done. And now I am the kind of person who walks the right way. That's my motivation, to walk the right way for everything that I've done, for the tremendous amount of pain that I've caused, to do that which is right as opposed to wrong. I've become the kind of person who resolves conflicts. I've become the kind of person who helps to mediate in situations. Men come to me for help in whatever they're dealing with in their lives, be it personal problems, be it problems at home, be it problems with their cases, or even going through different various problems with addiction and substance abuse issues here in the prison. I'm the recreation orderly. I'm responsible for organizing activities and games and sporting events in the camp. And I've been able to come across a wide spectrum of people. And this has allowed me to interact and be a part of men's lives and to help them. I am the pastor, the lead pastor of our cell block ministry team. I'm also the lead minister of our intercessory prayer group. I teach Bible studies at our church. I preach sermons. When they have organizations that come in off the streets, different ministry groups, I'm always there to help them and facilitate whatever they have going on. And I'm someone in our camp that people can rely on. And my motivation, again, is all of the pain and suffering I've caused. I wanted to be able to atone for what I've done. And you know, when we say that we've moved on and changed our lives, I want you all to know that there's not a wisp of that person that did those things all those years ago. He's not there. I'm a new creation. This prison has given me the tools to succeed in life. Just recently, in the last couple of months, I've seen guys that I haven't seen in a long time that went to different prisons, and I baptized them in the church. And they tell me that they're still living a good life, that they've turned their lives around and they never looked back. And I hope that if afforded the opportunity, I could do that on a grander scale. And that's why I'm asking you to give me your vote today. Thank you.
Warden, do you have anything to add about his prison record, prison behavior?
Since he's been incarcerated, he has a total of 25 DV reports, the last being in April of 2023. April of 2013. He completed anger management, moral compass, thinking for a change. His Tiger score is low. In review of his prison record, I did find where in April of 2020, there was an incident at Camp D involving some offenders and an employee. The employee, from what I understand, may have been being assaulted in some kind of way with a fire extinguisher, it kind of looks like in the record. And he did assist and make sure the employee got to safety. So I wanted to bring that up just to let y'all know. But other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you. Today we have lots of people in support. We're gonna have first Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project, who in support and wants to speak.
Good morning, Mr. Barra and the board. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. We supported Mr. Silva at his clemency proceedings, and we continue to support him now. We'll provide transitional housing, transitional programming and services should this board grant us parole today. He will receive a mentor, essentially a reentry coach that will help him through this process. 30 years is obviously a long time. The world has changed, and we are here to help him through these changes. Technology, finance, consumer skills, workplace protocols, the things that a person who has been incarcerated 30 years will need. Upon his release, we'll work with his long-term residence plan when he's ready to go to make sure that the transition is smooth. We'll assist with employment opportunities. So just want to let this board know that Parole Project is here to support him with all our services should this board grant him a day.
Thank you. Also, we have present and wanting to speak, John Batt Sr., a friend of Mr. Silva. Yes.
Thank you all for having me. And I was asked to offer up my qualifications first for coming here. I'm a Republican, served on the last Republican, served on the Walton City Council, and a delegate to the conventions for the last 6 out of 7 years. Currently serve on the executive committee of the LAGOP, and I've been on the state subcommittee for 24 years. I chair the parish executive committee in Orleans Parish. I was chairman of the board of Crime Stoppers and chairman of the board of trustees currently. And what I also did was serve with Sandy Krasnoff on Victims and Citizens Against Crime. I give you these because I've never advocated for felons' rights until now. Mr. Silva has spent decades in Angola. He's not the same man that went in. He went in when this happened. He was 18 years and I think 4 or 5 years old. What has accomplished during his incarceration, finding Jesus Christ and God, and showing those around him and sharing that with them, has been nothing short of amazing. I would like to see him do that in the real world. 3 decades is pretty much a lifetime. He would be of great value in the outside world, and I would like to use Luke Silva to talk to at-risk children and kids in the schools and the mentorship that I've done over the years, and walk with me when he gets released. And I ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Today, we also have Ms. Cynthia Berbovich, Mr. Silva's mother. Would you speak?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to express my sorrow to the Kreller family for all the pain that they've suffered. I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to speak on my son's behalf today. Luke had a difficult childhood. I was young when I married, and I didn't marry very well, or I wasn't really prepared to be a mom. And my husband and I fought some And then my second marriage, I thought would be better. He was an older fellow, so I thought he would bring some stability to my life, but that didn't work out. He turned out to be an alcoholic, and he was physically violent with me and my son and emotionally abusive. But for many years now, Luke has walked the walk of Christ. He has helped other inmates. He's helped men read and write. He has mentored many men. I've received letters from inmates thanking me for the son I have and the man he is today. A church group came recently. I think they were the Saints Prison Ministry, and they offered Luke a position in the ministry. They even came to see him at the Angola Rodeo. One year, a fella came into my car lot. I work with my brother, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a car. I just got to Angola." And my brother said, "Hey, Cindy, this guy was in Angola." And I said, "Do you know my son Luke?" He says, "Do I know him? He used to preach down at the cell blocks, and he'd make the hair stand up on my neck." So that's just one of the instances of Luke. And he's had so many testimonies from inmates that I know the board has had a chance to look at, telling us all how different he is. He is a Christian. He is kind. He's caring. He's giving. He cares for people deeply and wants to help them. My husband, Jeff, is here with me today. We have a home for Luke. My brother has a job for him at our car lot. His family and friends are all here in support of his petition. And I just want to ask the board to please consider him and please let him come home. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We also have Angelina Clavier, a friend in support on Zoom. Teresa Silva, a great aunt in support on Zoom. Packy Thompson, a pastor in support on Zoom. Shannon Morning, a family friend in support on Zoom. Cesar Parrish, a cousin in support on Zoom. Joshua Morning, a friend in support on Zoom. Luis Alvarado, cousin in support on Zoom. Eduardo Silva, Senior, grandfather in support on Zoom. Troy West, friend in support on Zoom. Christy Ingram Toops, friend in support on Zoom. Carrie Milano, a family friend in support at headquarters. Tammy Robinson, a friend in support on Zoom. Kristen Austin, a cousin in support on Zoom. Monique McGee, stepmother in support at headquarters. Yolanda Castillo, an aunt in support at headquarters. Thomas Burbowich, an uncle in support on Zoom. Tim Burbowich, an uncle in support at headquarters. Christopher Ramthen, cousin in support at headquarters. Linda Ayo, a cousin in support at headquarters. Brenda Burbowich, an aunt in support at headquarters. Tom Wilson, an employer in support at headquarters. Tina Mueller, a cousin in support at headquarters. Terry Burbowich, a cousin in support at headquarters. Tiffany Burbowich, a cousin in support at headquarters. Okay. Judge Laurie White, in support at headquarters, who we're going to allow to speak. Okay, after I get through introducing everybody, we'll have Ms. White come up. Phil Harrell, in support at headquarters. Tim Thompson, the LSP chaplain, in support at headquarters. Robert Felix, cousin in support at headquarters. Seth Trosclair in support at headquarters. Jeremy Trusk. I got that name wrong. Jamia. Yeah, something. Apologize. Trosclair in support at headquarters. Jacqueline Sona, a friend in support at headquarters. Andre Bott, a friend in support at headquarters. Hunter Viviano, nephew in support at headquarters. Emma Silva, a niece in support at headquarters. Legardo Silva, father in support at LSP. Jacqueline Silva, an aunt in support at LSP. And Peter Perret, a friend in support at LSP. And if there's anybody else in the audience or at LSP that I missed, would you please identify yourself and give us your name?
Cynthia Baburovich,
Okay. Support.
I'm sorry.
in support at LFP.
That's the only person I missed?
Jeff Pistorius, in supported,
LSP.
All right,
I'm Evan Wilson, in support at LSP.
okay,
Christine Wilson in support of, at LSP.
all right,
Sarah Friend in support of LSP.
all right,
Chris Canan in support of LSP.
all right,
Ann in support at LSP.
all right,
Jennifer Perret in support at LSP.
And Legardo Silva is second. Oh,
all right,
And Jane Hogan representing Mr. Silva.
gotcha.
Good morning.
So now hear from Judge Laura White.
Thank you. Good morning. You know, these aren't just people that came off the street. These are people in the support system. They came as far as Chicago and Georgia to be here. There are additional 13 people outside, and I want to thank you all for allowing them to watch the video outside so that they can see. I am a retired judge from Orleans Parish. I was on the criminal district court bench for 16 years. I've never appeared at a parole board hearing to ask for someone to get a release. I did appear at his clemency hearing and asked at that time, and as you know, getting a grant from a parole board is like threading a camel through the eye of a needle. He was successful, and we find ourselves here. What's interesting about Luke is that Luke was sentenced to a life in prison. Life means life. And life usually is something that you will not see an inmate make the decisions like Luke has made to better himself while in prison. Because what's the point? The point is he's going to sit there and smoke weed and not do anything for the rest of his career, because I've watched that many times, as I know you have. I started the reentry program in this state of Louisiana because I had had other people that I had gotten out of prison and they had failed miserably and gone back to prison as recidivists. I learned from that, and from my 38 years in law enforcement as a judge, I was a criminal defense lawyer where I met Luke and represented him from 1998 to 2008. I was an assistant district attorney in East Baton Rouge under O.C. Brown and Doug Morrow. I was an assistant district attorney with Harry Connick. My goal in life was to put people in prison. When I became a criminal defense lawyer, I learned that there are things that occur in the criminal justice system that should be righted. I worked on Luke's case because I thought it was a manslaughter case, because the facts in the case showed that there had been a fight and Luke was a young 18-year-old stupido that took a gun to a fist fight. He shot one time and he committed a murder. I've also had the opportunity to watch Luke from the time I became a judge in 2008 until the present. I've had over 30 years of experience with Luke. I am aware of what Luke has done and his spiritual path in prison. I am so confident about Luke's release and the fact that he can be successful and worth your opportunity to give him the benefit and honor of parole. That my husband and my husband is outside. I'm a Republican now, I don't have to get elected anymore. My husband and Donald Trump talk on text message every day, apparently. We are offering Luke an opportunity to either live with us, live near us in Folsom, Louisiana, and to work with us. I was also successful in getting other people out of prison, like Norris Henderson, who I know you all know. I was Norris Henderson's lawyer. So I know what success looks like for an inmate that is released. Luke is a murderer. He will always be a murderer. That is a sin and a stain that will always stay with him. That is not something that we are asking to be removed. We're asking for supervision from this parole board and strict and strident supervision that someone like a retired judge that has too much time and energy can provide over an inmate that would be free. We know what it looks like to be successful and the resources that are required. Luke does not have a mental problem. He's never had a mental problem other than bad choices at his young age. He is now, Luke, a 48-year-old man. He's been in almost 30 years. These people are people that Luke's mind stays in their lives all the time. I've spent time with inmates that their mind is only in the prison and they only think about prison things. Luke talks about newspaper articles he's read. He is super positive for somebody in prison. I would be a terrible inmate. Luke is someone that can be trusted because Luke is walking the walk. And how do you trust change from someone? Look at his 30-year career as an inmate. He has actually been successful as an inmate to walk the walk and not only make changes, but to do them and continue to do them. We would provide Luke the resources, we would provide him the supervision to make sure that not only because of role supervision, but because of personal supervision, that we would make sure he gets the community resources that are required, because I know what it's like for them not to do well in reentry, for them to not do well in the free world and to readapt. Luke is deeply thoughtful in his remorsefulness, and that's something that has always surprised me because I had not been, in essence, a friend to an inmate that I had spent time with from back in the latest was 2008. So Luke has made changes, and I hope that this board will grant him the mercy that you hold the power to grant. Luke took the life of a young man and he could never take it back. He will always be a murderer. We understand that there will always be strong law enforcement objection to this, as it should be, and always strong family objection, as it should be. I understand that. I faced people and didn't provide mercy and did provide mercy. But we are begging you to please see that this is the kind of case that when he was granted parole, pardoned by the governor, we never expected that. And we're so grateful, and we would ask you the same. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. All right. We have several people in letters of opposition. We'll start out with Deborah Montrell.
Thank you for this opportunity. And Brett's aunt. Mother. Give me a minute. You're right, Luke is a murderer. And he will always be a murderer. And it is not for us to forgive him that will become on his judgment day. He has come from his background was not good, as he previously stated. And you're looking to bring him back into the same community, the same atmosphere that he was raised in. I don't think that that's going to help. I'm so glad that he has found God in prison. I've had God all my life. That's why I don't commit murder. I follow the rules. I'm a law-abiding citizen. He was not. And whatever he does and whatever he did in prison is wonderful. That's good for him. But it does not erase what he did. He was sentenced to second-degree murder, life in prison without ever getting a parole or pardon. I don't understand why we do. The judicial system is something that's supposed to be pendulum. And I feel like it has failed us. I think that it is wrong for him to have a second chance. Brett does not have a second chance. We do not have a second chance with him. And for Luke, whatever he's done in prison is wonderful. I think he's found his calling. And I think that his calling should be in prison to help all the rest of the prisoners that are there. That seems to be where God wants him. And that's where he should remain. He is a murderer, and that will be his title for the rest of his life. And I do not think that he deserves a second chance, because I am fearful for my life. I am fearful for the Crowler family, because I don't know. He says he's been rehabilitated, he's taken courses. Anybody can take a course. It doesn't mean it's changed. It might look good on paper, but what does it really mean? His life sentence should be a life sentence. It has been commuted to 75 years now. That's not life usually, but he's only served 30 years of that 75, and he deserves to serve the rest. Because Brett has not gotten a second chance. Brett's life was stolen from him. Brett's life was stolen from all of us. And he needs to remain in prison and serve God the way he is doing now and help other prisoners. He's not going to help me out. And I am fearful. And I hope that if he is let out, that we as law-abiding citizens are protected in some kind of way from him. Because we don't know. He's seen all of us. We don't know what he would do. We don't know. I'm fearful. I'm sure the rest of my family is fearful. And I want him to serve his full term. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Rob Vadakovich.
Yep. I'm Rob Vadakovich, and I'm Brett's uncle. And before I get started with sort of a prepared statement, I just want to make a couple quick comments. I think that myself and my family seem to consider a 30-year sentence far from life. And if you want to know what life is, it's Brett Crowler. He's no longer here. He has no life. So that's my definition of a life sentence. As far as a manslaughter case, that's the second time I've heard that in 2 different parole hearings. And the jury disagreed 100%. They felt that it was, in fact, a second-degree murder trial, and he was charged with second-degree murder. So make no mistake, please, about that. So on behalf of Brett, on behalf of the family, on behalf of the other members of the family who could not be here today, in particular, Brett's dad, Brett's 2 sisters, they could not be here today, and a bunch of cousins. I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity. Since the board was not, this current board was not here for the last session, I would like to just point out a few things or share a few things with you. Originally, in the first hearing, our family and friends submitted a substantial number of emotional victim statements prior to the last session, and we submitted a bunch before this session. We all hope that you had an opportunity to review them. I think they say a lot. Our family traveled to Baton Rouge the day of the hearing. Our hope was that the board would come here with an open mind and base their decision on facts of the case and our emotional pleas, and the board would not commute a life sentence without parole that was handed down by the jury. Despite our excruciating emotional pleas of why the sentence should not be reduced, it was clear that the board's decision was already predetermined and that everything we did was really in vain. And that became clear as soon as we got started on this. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. it was clear to us also that the only way that the decision would not be what it is was that if Mr. Silva really blew it, and he did, because he is well rehearsed and he was well coached. I hear the same thing today from him, except he's had a little bit additional time to be even more well rehearsed and well coached for the board. With that said, it is our hope again that this board has an open mind, has not come here with a predetermined decision, and will weigh the reasons why the victim's family requests that Silva serve the full 75-year term, which was made by the previous board and does not get any reduction in this time. As for my plea to you, there were some inconsistencies in the last board meeting. You could call them inconsistencies, you could call them lies, but there were some facts that were not correct. And in my opinion, if he can't admit to what happened the night in 1994, then I truly believe that he cannot be truly remorseful or sorry for murdering Brett. Several character references stated how he's helped people in prison and he's a leader and a mentor. Well, I really hope that is the case. I hope that he did find Jesus in 2010, as he said he did. So maybe the remainder of his 75 years in jail is where he can best serve other people. So hopefully that is what takes place. While I can understand his family and his mother's pleas for him to be released by saying things like he is forgiven, he is loving, he is giving, they beg for his mercy to be let out. Well, despite the victim's family pleas, Brett will never come home due to Silva. Despite all of Brett's hopes and dreams, they will never be met due to Silva. Brett also has a home that he could come home to. He has a family he could come home to, but he never would. This individual, Mr. Silva, just to let you know, at the trial, he mocked the family. He tried to intimidate the family, literally during the trial. The individual literally celebrated and toasted the murdering of Brett on the 1-year anniversary of his murder. This is all, by the way, documented in court documents. This individual stated he got his respect by murdering Brett. It's beyond comprehension why the victim's family is and will continue to serve a life sentence while Silva is free to just go celebrate with his family and his friends. It's beyond comprehension. Silva had a chance not to do what he did, and he chose to follow Brett from a bar. He chose to get in a fight with Brett, and according to the court documents again, he literally decided to pull a gun, point blank range, and shoot Brett. So that's what we're dealing with here, right? No mistake about it. So while disappointed that the life sentence was commuted, we appeal to the board at a minimum that Silva remain in jail for the full 75-year term that was recommended by the last board. We hope that there is no time that is allowed because he attended some classes. And we also hope that there is no time allowed because he of good behavior and he's helping people in jail. Maybe that's where, like I said, maybe that's where he should be to help people in jail. So, with that said, I thank you.
Okay. We have Stacy Giovanni, victim sister. No, yeah, victim sister.
Mom is here to speak. It's Ken K. Crowd.
Okay, great. All right, next we'll have Kate Kreller, the victim's mother. Thank you.
My name is Kay. Thanks to Dr. Higgins for here to speak. Pretty much what I have to say is what they've already said. At the time of the trial, I left everything up to God because I was not there. I did not know what happened. I prayed that whatever the outcome was because God knew what happened. He was the one that was going to make the outcome be what it was. Also prayed that once he got convicted, that he would get a conscience and live with that guilty conscience for the rest of his life. That would be his sentence to be. And it appears that he's as sorry as he says he is. It appears that those prayers were answered. The life sentence that he imposed on my family is irrevocable. It will forever be there. We talk about Brett all the time. It comes up in conversation. As far as him saying that somebody came after him with a bat at the fight. Yeah, they did. Brett was by himself, and him and his friends were all beating up on Brett. So Brett's friend saw this out of a window and came out with a bat to clear the air to get the other kids off of Brett so that Luke and Brett could have an even fight. And at the end of the fight, Brett took his hands off of him and said, "Now go home. If the fight is over." And at that point is when he pulled the gun out of his waistband and shot him. His friend was there and watched the whole thing. And that was said in court. So it's not like they came after him specifically with the bat. They were all beating up on Brett. And then I don't know what else to say. His sentence should be the same as ours and as Brett's. It should be for life, and it should be irrevocable. And there's just no words to even say.
Thank you. We also have Stacy Gianni, victim's sister, who's on Zoom and opposed. We have Jamie Meyer, another victim's sister, on Zoom and opposed. Lindsay Schulthus, victim's cousin, on Zoom and opposed. William Vodakovich, victim's cousin, on Zoom and opposed. Ann Vodakovich at headquarters and opposed. Bill Vodakovich at headquarters and opposed. And Emma Vodakovich at headquarters and opposed. We also have Randall Myers from the district attorney's office, who we're going to let speak, who's on Zoom.
Good morning, Randall Myers, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. We are strongly opposed to Mr. Silva's request for parole. First off, looking at his programming that he's done while incarcerated, very limited, thinking for a change, anger management, and he has certificates for moral compass, victim awareness, substance abuse back in 1998, and then some faith-based certificates as well. Very strong victim opposition, as you've heard. And that's a strong reason for denying his parole today. And I've got to talk about something that Lori White stated. She talked about reviewing this case, and it's a manslaughter case. Well, it's not a manslaughter case. If you look at the evidence, two things, and these go together. It's not a manslaughter case, and I'll talk a little bit about the evidence, which I generally don't do. And the other thing is that Mr. Silva has not been honest with this board, with the board at the pardon board hearing, and I opposed him for that at the pardon board hearing back in 2023. And when he was asked what happened today, he simply stated that I shot the gun one time and Mr. Kreller was killed. In his application to the pardon board, Mr. Silva stated that he fired a warning shot into the air and that he had never met Mr. Silva prior to this incident. The state had witnesses who testified of 4 instances in the 2 years prior to the murder in which Mr. Silva threatened to kill Mr. Kreller. Defense witnesses confirmed the 4 meetings, although they disputed whether it was Kreller who was making the allegations of, threatening to kill him, or whether Mr. Silva would made the allegations on threatening to kill him, or with whether Mr. Kreller was the aggressor. But the point, though, is that he was not honest. Shooting one time in the air is clearly inaccurate. Testimony from the state's forensic pathologist, the track of the bullet was inconsistent with a shot into the air. Mr. Kreller was either, in the opinion of the pathologist, was either shorter than Mr. Silva or below Mr. Silva because the track was downward. And very importantly, in my opinion, is the skin around the entrance wound contained stripling, which indicates that the gun was fired a distance 12 to 18 inches away from Mr. Kreller's head in a downward fashion. That's murder. That's not manslaughter. And I disagree with Ms. White and her statement that this is a manslaughter case. So for those reasons, we remain strongly opposed to his request for parole.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. We also have law enforcement opposition from the sheriff and from the Attorney General's office in the record. How about Ms. Holt?
Yes, sir.
We'll go ahead and let you have the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Barra. I would like to acknowledge that this board has a very difficult job and that this is a very, very, very difficult case. And I I would like this board to analyze this case through the lens of Luke's age at the time. He was 18 years old and 4 months. He was a first offender. And while he's not considered a juvenile for purposes of these hearings, the same impulsivity, the same reckless characteristics of children that make them different for sentencing purposes, those don't automatically go away magically the day that somebody turns 18 years old. And so at 18 years old and 4 months, Luke Silva had those same characteristics of impulsivity, recklessness, and that all manifested into an unspeakable and unforgivable act of violence. He doesn't make excuses for that. What is also clear in people that commit crimes very, very early in life is that they have a profound capacity for rehabilitation and for change. And that is evident in this case too, from an honest or objective review of Luke's record. Throughout the past 29 years, he has transformed from the person that he was into a person who is now self-described as a pillar of his community. There's letters of support from the warden and the assistant warden of his camp. He's one of the few trustees over at Camp D, and he is called on, in addition to his normal job and his volunteer work, he is called upon to do anything, and he does whatever is asked of him. In August, he almost had a heat stroke because he was running around all day long, setting things up and taking things down. He doesn't shy away from hard work. He has an open door policy with his fellow inmates. As you see from the letters that we submitted from other inmates, he's taught people how to read. He's brought people closer to God. He's gone to the cell blocks to minister to people in their time of need. And he uplifts people. And clearly the capacity for change that has led to different considerations for youthful offenders is clear in this case. So we would ask this board to consider all of these factors. We know that this is a very difficult case. We know that there is very intense opposition. If there's any specific question as to the crime itself or to anything in the record, either Luke Silva or myself can answer those questions, but we would, Luke has a very, very supportive family and community, as evident from all the people that are gathered here today and others that are watching. He has multiple different options for places to live and to work. The environment that he came from is very different than the environment that he would be going back to. He'd be going to the parole project, and then he would be going to his long-term residence plan, either with his mother or with Judge White. And so for all of these reasons, we would ask this board to consider everything that Luke has done. In addition to the programs that were mentioned, Luke also took it upon himself to take correspondence courses to become certified physical trainer and nutritionist. And there's other things that he's done that he hasn't gotten certificates for. As mentioned, he came to the aid of a guard who was being attacked by other people. He comes to the aid of people all the time who are in need. And he would continue to do that if granted the opportunity for a second chance. He is a first offender. He has a very low risk of recidivism, and he's the living embodiment that even people that commit senseless acts of violence in their youth they have a capacity for change. So we would ask this board to consider this case and to grant his opportunity for his request for parole within the conditions deemed appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, your case is assigned to me, so I only have one small question. What were y'all fighting about? What was the whole argument about?
Yes, sir. Our group of friends, they didn't get along. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of he said, she said type of things. And this particular night, that was just carryover from that.
So y'all were fighting about nothing.
There was a girl involved where one of his friends was messing with the girl who was a girlfriend, one of my friends. And like I said, one thing led to another, and the two groups of friends, they just didn't like each other at all. So yes, sir, basically we were fighting over nothing.
All right. That's the only question I had. Anybody else has another question? No, I have no questions. All right, I guess it's time to vote. Before I vote, I just want to say, like Ms. Hogan said, this is one of the toughest cases that we've had. We have two families with both have big losses and over nothing that we finding out, that this all happened over nothing. Luke, you're a true first offender with a good prison record. I got many letters of support from inmates and others about you, and this is just a tragedy. I have just as many letters against you. So it just makes it a major tragedy. Today, I'm gonna have to vote to deny your parole due to the violent nature of the crime committed with a gun and the strong law enforcement opposition and victim opposition. And also that you haven't only served 30 years of what would have been a life sentence and now a 75. So you haven't even gotten to the halfway mark yet of the reduced sentence. So at this point, I can't vote to let you out. But I'll recommend that you continue with your good work in prison. You continue following the Lord, that you apply again when you're eligible. You're still a young man. And I wish you good luck, but I can't vote to let you out after 30 years for this kind of crime.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Renatza?
All right, Mr. Silva, I was not present at your pardon hearing, so I didn't vote on that decision. But I want to commend you for all the good work you're doing in prison. You do a tremendous service to your community, and I agree with what was said over here, that maybe that's God's calling for you at this time, in this season of your life. And we spoke of second chances, and you have gotten a second chance. You got numbers on your sentence instead of life, which means you have a good time there, and you can work. You know what you can do to work towards that. I looked at same thing Mr. Barra did, and the amount of time served on the new reduced sentence of 75 years, 30 years is not enough. So based on that and the opposition that's been expressed today, my vote today is to deny your parole. And I do urge you to keep doing your good work. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Tillis?
Mr. Silva, I'd like to commend you too on the work that you're doing there. I've been involved in prison ministry, and I'm glad to see that you are doing something constructive. My vote today is to deny because of the opposition and the seriousness of the crime.
Yes, sir. Thank you again.
Well, Mr. Silva, today your parole has been denied. I encourage you to apply again when you're eligible. And this will conclude our business today. Mr. Silva.
Well, what do you think of this outcome? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. Until next time, folks.